find that too. Here we go.
Okay, go.
Have we got it together?
Yes.
All right, ding us one more time, please.
Sure. One more time.
One more.
Four. That's one.
Good morning. Pura-vida. Welcome to this week's Dharma Talk here at beautiful Valley Rica, in beautiful Costa Rica, and on the amazing internet. A very warm, happy birthday to Sharon. It's
What? Happy birthday! Oh.
And today, our good friend, Mark Daniel, is giving a talk that I requested a long time ago now, and that was delayed because he went back to Canada and couldn't get out. For those of you who don't know Mark, Mark is a fire keeper for 3 native Indian tribes in Canada. This is a very highly honored position, and we're very honored to have him as our friend and compadre here. And I'm going to turn the talk over to him now. Hi.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. Of course, Ruthie and I have talked a great deal about how the Dharma is part of everything and how everything is part of the Dharma. And one of the places where we feel that they overlap is some of these teachings that come from our native communities. And for me, that's obviously in Canada. And so what I'd like to do today is I'm going to do this in about 3 parts. And the first part is I'll give you just a little bit of a background to what my role is and how I got that title. 2, I am going to talk about some of the things, more particularly about the 4 cardinal directions and how they can sound very much like the Fourfold Path, which we have written up here. And of course, the 4 Noble Truths, and then the Eightfold Path. And I have a writing today. As a Canadian, this is significant because it came from a friend of mine who was one of the chairs, one of the leaders of a rally that was held on our Parliament Hill for between 6,000 and 7,000 Native people right on the hill, a protest. And I would like to share her perception of something. So I'd like to share that with you. It's about 4, maybe 6 paragraphs long. What I'm going to ask every one of you to do is I'm not going to give you things. I'm not going to hand it to you and say, here, this is what it is. You figure it out. Well, actually, here's what it is. You don't need to figure it out. I'm going to share things with you, and I'm going to ask you to look into yourself and what you know about the Dharma and how they relate. In a lot of the communities that I've had the good fortune to be in, and I've been in a lot all across Canada, they never hand you anything on a silver platter. It's not like, here you go, here's a profound teaching, this is yours, and you take it and you go, oh, this is magnificent, that totally makes sense to me. What does it do? It never goes that way. It's offered out, and it's offered in a discussion. And so that's the way I'm going to do that with you. Before I do, a firekeeper is in the protocols of Native communities. Elders are at the top of the list. Everything moves upward. Elders never do anything except for impart and share wisdoms. They get fed first. They don't do any of the cooking. They don't do any of the cleaning. They don't collect the firewood. They don't do.
To me.
They just sit there in an exalted place and they receive tobacco by people that seek guidance from them. That's their role. Our role is to provide for them, and it's a symbiotic relationship. So that's the hierarchy. The firekeeper sits just below the elders. And when it comes to food, the firekeeper gets fed first. because the firekeeper is responsible for the fire, and the fire cannot go out. While the ceremony is going on, the fire must stay lit. And that's why the firekeeper gets first, because they can't sort of get up and walk over and say, okay, well, I'm hungry now, hey, how was lunch today? No, they stay with the fire because they're providing the sacred space for all of the teachings, for all of the journeys, for everything that's going on. And they work with the elders that are leading whatever's being shared. And it's a coveted position because it's not easy. Like I said, when you go to these communities, they don't go, oh my God, Mark is here. Thank you, Creator. Kichimani oh, great, we're all been saved. It doesn't work that way. I walk up and I offer tobacco and I say, I think I'm ready to learn. And they decide whether or not I'm ready to learn. They're not rude. They're like, sure, we'll see what you've got. And then I spend 2 weeks with a chainsaw and with an axe, cutting firewood for 2 weeks by myself and stacking it. That's part of the teaching. Nobody there helping me. Do this. By the way, we need the fire area, prepare the fire area. And you start doing it. And somebody walks up and goes, we have a teaching about that. Can I share it with you? And you go, yeah, I'd love to hear it. And then they share it. And just when you've got it and you think you've got this teaching and this profound teaching, I now know how this fire is going to be set. You sit back proudly, appreciative of what you've accomplished. And someone comes up and goes, that's not the way we do it. And it's like, and after a while you go, of course it isn't. But through it, you learn how absolutely everybody has their own particular nuances to their spiritual, to the red path, to the 4 cardinal directions, to everything else. And your job, or my job for many, many years, was to do this. Say nothing, watch everything, listen to absolutely everything, do what I was told, even when somebody said, move all the firewood over there. That's where we want the firewood. And somebody else comes up to me and says, who told you to put that there? And it's not like, well, Bob told me. It's like, would you like it moved? Yes, we'd like it moved. And so you take the 3 cords of wood and you move it to the other location. Bob comes back and says, why is it there? Move it back. And you move it back. Why doesn't matter. You just do it. Okay? So this is why when you're honored as a firekeeper, it means that you kind of run the gauntlet. You've done what's needed to be done, and you've shown that you're not going to take offense. Because the other thing that ends up happening as firekeeper is there are swirling energies moving all around, especially in sweat lodges and in vision quests. And not a lot of these energies are really friendly. And if you can't handle being told to move the firewood 3 times, then you're not going to be able to handle those energies. And they need to know that they can rely on you because they have their specific roles that they're doing. So I've set the stage. Okay? Today, the meditation is going to be a short one. It seems to be a common phrase lately, because I'm really hoping that I will be able to continue what I'm called to share from the meditation into my observations. Notice that I'm using the term that they are my observations. They are not my teachings. These do not belong to me. I am a steward of them. I have been graced with them, but they are not mine. If you want to get them from the person, you must go and offer the tobacco to the people that shared them with me. I am just giving you my perception of what I've been shown. Okay? It's really important to notice that. I am not Cree, Lakota. I'm not Anishinaabe. And though I love them, Algonquin, grew up in the areas of the Algonquins, I am not one. I'm a white guy from Toronto, but I adore their teachings and I respect their teachings, and I consider it an incredible honor to have them shared with me. So now I'm going to request that you settle into your breath. You've all done this many, many, many times. Many times. And by settling into your breath, that means you're letting all the information sort of fall away. There's nothing you need to remember here. This is just interesting. Yes, it's just interesting. I'm interested to see how this is going to relate to the Dharma. And if you think I'm speaking to you, I'm actually speaking to me too. So just allowing everything to flow, let go. We have the song of the cicadas today. There's always something. As you settle into your breath, in your mind's eye, you close your eyes. And with your eyes closed in your mind's eye, you just feel calm. You feel peace. You feel relaxed. Maybe because I'm telling you, or maybe just because you feel it. And you begin to sense maybe the smell of smoke, maybe the oak, or maybe birch, or you can smell a small fire. And as you smell that, you become aware that you are moving and shifting to another realm of thought or consideration. You're still here in the physical body, you're still here at Valley Rica, but for now, you're experiencing something a little bit different too. In a few moments, your physical eyes will be closed, but I will ask you to open your mind's eyes. And you can do that now. In your mind's eye open, and you're sitting in a long building. It's made with branches and twigs that are in this huge arch. It's covered with cloths and skins. There's a fire in the middle, and you are sitting as an honored guest. You have asked to attend this lodge. This is not a sweat lodge. This is more of a repertoire, a meeting place. And in such, you see that people are sitting around a fire, and there is a spot that is open for you, and you are invited to sit among the elders. You do not know the protocols. That's okay. They know that. You sit down, you look around, nobody really acknowledges you, they're aware of you, they look at the fire. Maybe they talk amongst themselves very quietly, you can't hear it, and you're sitting there wondering what to do. Notice how you feel. The sense, the smell, the language that you don't understand. And you begin to relax. And the more you relax, the more their voices are easier to hear. The more you relax, the smell of the smoke isn't a distraction. It enhances the experience. The embers from the fire are a glow that offer everyone a beautiful, beautiful light upon their face. You are no longer seeking for answers. You are in the realm of answers. And anything that will be shared with you will be in a way that makes sense to you. And they've been waiting for you. They have always been waiting for you. As such, you are special, and perhaps not fully special as well. You're just part of the community, one of many. And just notice how you feel. You hear a noise. And it's one of the elders speaking to you. The words may not make sense to you. The intention and the expression does. Your time with them has come to a completion point. And so now is the time for you to stand up respectfully. You smile at each one. Each one looks you directly in the eyes with a soft glow, with a soft appreciation, with compassion and understanding. Though they may not smile, they may or may not, but you feel seen all the same, witnessed all the same, appreciated all the same. In your mind's eye, you close your eyes once again. And as you close your eyes, you find yourself back here at Valley Rica. You feel the breeze moving through the land, the song of the cicadas. You may even feel warm or cool, but you've returned. But something's different. Something has changed, and it's changed inside of you. And these are the gifts and the teachings of our Native brothers and sisters, the elders. And just enjoy a deep breath. Maybe a few deep breaths as you come back fully, completely into your body. And as you're ready, you may open your eyes. And just noticing what is different, what feels different. When we talk about certain teachings, it's as simple as this. You've probably all seen this before. It's the medicine wheel, 4 colors, very simple, and yet full of teachings. And each teaching is significant to each group, tribe, clan, group of people. It represents the same for all of them. The 4 cardinal directions, east, south, west, and north. Some people prefer to go north, west, south, and east, counterclockwise to the way that I see it, but it's fine. But there's 4. And what I'm going to talk about is the number 4, all of the 4s in this. There are many, many more. I'm only going to touch on a few. And where I'm going to ask you to be a part of this is to consider the 4 noble truths. There is suffering in the world or in your life. That we're often the creator of our own suffering. That we are the resolution or the cessation of that suffering. And then the 8-fold path is how we maintain a state of equilibrium, equanimity. When we talk about these things from a Buddhist point of view, it has been my impression that we are talking about an exalted state, an awareness of something that we can achieve and live in our lives on a regular and daily basis. But in reality, it's not practical because we're not given a hammer and shown how to tap a nail to make something. It's the inner journey that we experience that helps us to understand the teachings. And then once we understand those teachings, then we bring them forward out into our life. We let them express, and we notice how the world around us begins to shift and change to meet our understanding of those teachings. Native communities are a little bit different. They believe that you are in a physical body. And because you are in a physical body, you are meant to have a physical experience. You're not meant to be floating around in the ethers and, doing all this stuff. There is that part, but you must remember that you're in a physical body. Somebody has to cut the firewood. Somebody has to offer the tobacco to the land. Somebody has to build the sacred fire. Somebody has to build the shepitois, the sweat lodge. Somebody has to prepare the food. Somebody has to prepare the lodgings. And somebody must be there to share the teachings in the physical body. And it takes a community to do that. Sangha. So everybody who attends, like when you were sitting in that lodge, the long lodge, you were acknowledged for the special person you were, but you were also acknowledged as just another person of community. There was nothing exceptional or wonderful about you other than you're accepted into that community. And unless you're an elder, you're actually doing things. One of the first things that I do when I go to a community, before I know the lay of the land, is I'll wash dishes. And people just expect me to wash dishes. Not a big fan of washing dishes, I can tell you. But I know the fact that I'm willing to get involved, to do something without being told to do it, and it's something that nobody wants to do, that to them, they say, here's somebody who's coming to give to community, not looking to take something and then go, be here for the weekend and run back and look and say to their friends, look what I did on the weekend. Somebody who's actually going to be involved. The last time I was at preparing for the vision quests, I had 5 tick bites over my body. I was in the bush for 2 weeks, clearing the trails, preparing the sites, chopping the wood, doing it all by myself. And when everybody showed up, everybody gave me a resounding thank you. No, nobody said anything. Nothing. One of the elders walked by and looked and went, and then walked away. That was their way of saying, you did a good job. Why would I be singled out as doing something amazing when I'm just contributing to community, contributing to community? And that's the difference. So when we talk about 4, we're talking about a series of teachings. First of all, the colors represent the 4 colors of the people on the earth: yellow, white, black, and the redskin. We're all one tribe. We're all one community, and we work together as such. No one is special. No one is larger than the other. They're all equal. The East, really easy. It's the beginning of things. Situational awareness. There are totems for each of the directions specific to each teaching, or to the totems or totem poles, or to a specific community. And because mine are different than others, I don't announce mine. I welcome everybody else's. So when I look to the East, I call to the spirit keepers of the East. Thank you for supporting and watching over us. Thank you for the gift of the medicine wheel that is supporting us here. To the spirit keepers of the South, thank you. To the spirit keepers of the West, thank you. To the spirit keepers of the North, thank you. That way I'm inclusive of everybody's totems, everybody's spirits, everybody's teachers, everybody's teachings. If the East is the beginning, that is new life, the start. The South is the youthful part of our life. West becomes the adult, moving into the elders. And the North is the spot where we cross over, where we complete our life. And then we can begin again if we choose. There are different medicines that go with them. Generally speaking, everyone has their own, but to the east, to the east, well, it's more kind of over there, I guess, but to the east, yeah, okay.
It rises on my house every morning.
Okay. Oh, that's where it is. I was looking for it.
No promises.
To the east, tobacco. Why tobacco? It's the language of First Nation communities. It's sacred. Very simply, very, very simply, if I have an issue with you, or I have a request of you, or I'm looking to receive a teaching from you, I come bearing gifts and I come with my sacred tobacco. And I have just enough tobacco, this is loosely put, just enough tobacco that I offer to you. And if you accept it, you're saying, I will honor your request for conversation. I may say no, the person may say, no, thank you. That's fine. That's understandable. I'm not ready to talk to you. You're not ready for these teachings. Your request is not timed in accordance with my ability. Maybe somebody else will accept it, but I'm not ready to do that. But if they do accept the tobacco, when the conversation is finished, that person will bring out their pipe and they'll put the tobacco in their pipe, light the pipe, the sacred chanupa, do their smudging and everything, and pass the pipe back over to me. My tobacco and their pipe. There's a unity, a meeting, a blending. We've met equanimity. We're at peace. We don't smoke the pipe until we've reached that state of I understand you, you understand me.
Isn't there a special motion to hand the pipe too?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Well, generally speaking, the pipes are all different lengths, but generally speaking, depending on the stem, and they come in two parts. But you always hold the pipe part of it in your left hand and the stem in your right, because if you just hold it, sometimes the bowl falls off, and that's not a very. I've seen it happen, and nobody gets upset. Stuff happens, but why have that happen? So you always hold the bowl in your left hand, stem in the right, and when you pass it, if I was to pass it to Lisa, I don't change my hands. I pass them over, and Lisa will take the pipe from the bowl in her left hand and take the stem in her right hand from me, and then she will pass it. And we tend to go clockwise in that regard. The pipe moves clockwise. Tobacco is a big broadleaf plant with deep roots. And these roots go down into Mother Earth, and they draw up all of the nutrients from Mother Earth. But the leaves are so broad that they collect all of the sun from Father Sky. And so there's this unity, and it grows tall. It stands as tall as a man. And so this is part of the reason why this is the first offering, or this is the importance of tobacco. To the south, generally we have cedar. Cedar is considered one of the most, in the world, is considered one of the most healing plants. The medicines, we bathe in it, we drink it, we smudge with it. It goes into our fires, it goes into offerings, it permeates everything. And that healing medicine is in the community. So the south is considered the community, self in the east community. As we get into the west, the sacred medicine is sage, and sage is the purification, the cleansing, the releasing. It is also the transition point. And then when we move into the north, into the white, sweetgrass, which is an incredible smell. In fact, one of the greatest gifts, and I've received many, but some of the greatest, is when a grandmother comes up to me and offers me braided sweetgrass that she picked and braided and dried herself, and is tied with red string, and offers it to me in gratitude for everything that I've done. I love that. I mean, I get tobacco and stuff, but there's something, it's just an acknowledgement of a spiritual connection that I enjoy, I embrace. So we've talked about the colors, the community. We've talked about some of the sacred medicines, and we've talked about the different times, the child to, or the birth to the child, to the adult, to the transition. So what I'd like to do now is I've sort of set the stage a little bit about this. What happens when we go to community with a problem? I am experiencing spiritual issues. It could be alcohol or drug related, sexual abuse, abuse of any kind, misunderstanding, loss of spiritual connection. Everybody runs up, embraces, and tells me it's okay, I'll be all right. No. Just like you walk into the lodge, you walk in and sit down, and they acknowledge you as member, a part of our community. Welcome. You're attending or addressing something just like we attend and address something. We don't get excited or wound up about things because it's just part of life. There's an equanimity, a balance. There's a natural ebb and flow that ends up occurring in everything. And there's something incredibly reassuring when you're in a group of people that are willing to hold that space for you. They don't pass you tissues. You know, they're compassionate. There's love. There's acknowledgement. There's respect, because they're saying, I see you as something more than just your wounds. I see you as something as more than just this story that you're telling yourself. I see you as a valuable part of community, of the greater community, of the greater whole. Having a physical experience on this earth, you could have gone anywhere. You chose to have this experience on earth, and we honor and recognize you for that. And as such, welcome. Anything we can do to help, we will. Including passing you the pipe when you've never held the pipe before. And you take it, and somebody just takes your hand and moves it over to the bowl, and they close your fingers, and then they just nod. And in that, you've just learned a new teaching, and you hold it, and somebody, as you go to put it to your mouth, somebody will whisper, don't inhale. I've now received 2 teachings, and now part of the community. And it just keeps morphing and building and doing those things. I said I was going to read something from a friend of mine. She's quite an amazing woman.
Can I share something about
Please.
Jenny? You said it was a rally. It was actually the very first, the Aboriginal Day with the Truth and Reconciliation. Oh, the Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Yep.
It was the very first day of that, and she was the master of ceremonies for the event on Parliament.
Right. Well, okay. It was a celebration. It wasn't a rally. However, for those of you that are Canadian, you're aware of what's happening in our capital. And if you're like me, this is not the Canada that I know. This is not the way Canadians do things.
It's not the America I know either.
Yeah. And so we know we're in states of transition and change. However, this woman was silent for a long period of time. She posted something on Facebook. Lisa showed it to me. And I love Jenny. She's an awesome lady. I have wonderful conversations with her. But I'd like to read what she wrote about what she's experiencing. And she lives in Ottawa. I humbly acknowledge the parts within me that may be uneducated due to a lack of research, misinformed due to misrepresentation by the media, and or disillusioned by my own biases and wounds. When I come to making a decision, I am thus careful in formulating an opinion. I recognize that we all have differing perspectives and truths that need to be respected. We all are on our own unique journeys, and yet are intimately connected. So perception is a complex notion. Despite differing perspective, I have always aspired to compassionately hold space for opposing views. We all have had to make some really difficult decisions these past 2 years. The challenge has meant a critical review of who we are in all aspects. And no one likes to have one's belief systems challenged. No one likes to have their belief systems challenged. The fight between ego and spirit, pride and humility are at a standoff. We must make sure we fight the good fight Arrogance has no place in a peaceful outcome. I have been focusing on healing from everything that I've had to confront and endure during this pandemic. For my own health, so that I can continue to operate a healing space for others. The implications of these times have meant that confronting deeply seated issues, you know, the kind we're all trying to avoid, on all levels of consciousness. So the work is intense. The pandemic has beckoned those issues to the surface, and many of us had to face our fears and wounds straight on in isolation. With a lack of community and support, spiritual disconnect became apparent. The bigger picture here is that we are being spiritually challenged to evolve our consciousness. These times aren't meant to be easy. This is a time of great change, forewarned by our prophecies. And in order for change to happen, the foundation of what is and the many systems that are currently in place need to crumble. So I get the desire to stand ground for those who recognize when things feel wrong or oppressive. We as Indigenous people may understand that better than most. We have not known freedom in hundreds of years. And we have been and when we have screamed for help, our voices were always silenced. The last time I stood on Parliament Hill when I was leading, helping to lead a ceremony for our first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Thank you, Lisa. That welcomed between 6,000 and 7,000 people. On my opening, I reminded a handful of angry protesters that this was peaceful. They respectfully quieted down. Compassionately, I understand the angst behind the protesters. Many of those in attendance that day have come from unimaginable hardship. There are Indigenous communities right here in Ontario facing third world conditions in 2022. But respectfully, had the ceremony I led deviated from our vision, we would have shut it down. We are so incredibly grateful to the Black Lives Dysphoria for volunteering to be our security for the day, so we could focus on the vision. Notice the number here: peace, prayer, healing, and change. 4 things. Every person represents the community. Every fractal a part of the whole. That's why Indigenous worldview is community driven. Our collective goal is not only to help raise our communities, but to teach you our ways. We are the collective and we need each other. None of us can survive on the sick land, and we all deserve equal footing on this soil. Mother Earth is ill, and the ecosystems are on the verge of collapsing and threatening to wipe out our homes. You need us, the traditional land and water stewards of Turtle Island, partly known as Canada. Those of us who believe in the 8th fire prophecy, something I can talk about another time, pray that you will return to embracing a sacred relationship with Mother Earth, establishing your spiritual connection to her and thus each other. We are all children of her. If we can do this, peace will come. Pay attention to those rooted in traditional teachings, the Indigenous ways of knowing, those protecting the sacred sites and offering ceremonies. Pay attention to your Indigenous kin who have become determined to study colonial law so they could get inside and construct the needed changes within the colonial systems. Natural laws now have a voice. Pay attention to those putting themselves through Western education so we could acquire colonial understandings and a skill set needed for your type of jobs, so we wouldn't continue to be swept away by the lower fringes of society, where the governmental residential school system wanted us to be. Our children will now be given our original instructions. We are clearing the path for our traditional structures and systems, and we will be sure to raise up our voices to our indigenous elders and our traditional knowledge keepers, to amplify the voices of wisdom that can lead us all to that healing. So for those of you wondering why I've been mum these days, my only focus is on creating these infrastructures for peace and a culture that can support it. I cannot be part of anything that has the means to facilitate a space for harm. My heart, prayer, blessings of my heart, pressing. Dyslexia is such a wonderful thing. My heart, prayer, and blessings of those healings to those feeling the heaviness of this past weekend, and weeks, to those hurting on either side. May it fuel within you the passion to be at peace, to be where you need to be, because it all starts from within. This is a young woman in her 30s who was raised in Native teachings. She's obviously eloquent, educated, and she walks the red road. She walks her spiritual path. This is a woman who is used to fighting differently. She's used to standing up for truth, not fighting against something. And when she didn't understand something, her and her sisters, they moved into those systems and learned the language of those systems, the sciences, the colonial laws, the British North America Act. They learned so that they went to those communities or those places of difference, bearing gifts, knowledge, and appreciating the person on the other side of the conversation. This is the Canada that I live. This is the Canada that I love. So I said I was going to give a series of talks about different things and sort of bring it all together. And I've been asking each one of you to consider what these things have to do with the Four Noble Truths.
Everything.
Everything. Right now, we are suffering. Everywhere we look, there are problems. And so what I'm hoping that we're learning from our Native brothers and sisters is that we can be that change, that the change comes from within inside, which the Buddha talks about as well. If something's not in alignment, move within, come inside yourself and see where you are not contributing, where you are balancing the equation just by choosing a peaceful voice. The amazing thing about truth, it doesn't need to be yelled. Truth is always truth. It may take 100 years to come to fruition, to be realized, but it is always heard. It is undeniable and it is unsuppressible. In Canada, hundreds upon hundreds of children's graves have come to the surface. It's an embarrassment for us. I didn't do it.
Children's what have come to the surface?
Graves.
Yeah. But I can be
All
part
over
of the
Canada.
peaceful solution to it. That's the Canada that I live in. That's my Canada. Je parle français. I don't speak French. Anybody who speaks French knows that my French is not that very good, but at least I try. That's my Canada. And so my involvement in First Nation communities and many different First Nation communities, from the West Coast to the Arctic Circle, in Quebec, in Ontario, I represent something that they don't normally like, a white man from Toronto. And I can tell you, I've had some very stern stares until they see me wash the dishes. And then I get, somebody taking that clean dish from the person who gave me that stare, takes the clean dish and looks at it to make sure that I cleaned it properly, and then smiles and puts it away. And all of a sudden there's a kinship. There's a unity. There's a relationship that is building. This is why I am such an ardent follower to the best of my ability, honoring those teachers that I've received from all across Canada and in India that have helped me to understand the nature of community relationship. And I believe this is what the Buddha was talking about as well. The difference is in the First Nation communities and our Native communities, they live it day in, day out, even while they were being oppressed, suppressed, and held back. They said, I can still do this. I can still honor my community. We'll hold a sun dance way up north where nobody cares to go. We'll hold a moon dance where nobody cares to go. We will share our sacred medicines with each other. And now, rather than holding everything back from the white people, these communities are saying, please come. We're learning your language. Come and learn our language. Come and listen to the plants. Come and feel the healing medicines of each plant, of each animal. Eat the spirit of the buffalo. I'm a vegan. Vegan just means poor hunter in Indian. I can't tell you how many times I heard that when I said it was vegan. Come and taste the sacredness of the sacred fish for that particular season. Why is this teaching of the snow moon now moving into the worm moon? Why are these significant? Why are they important? It's because you are living here in a physical body and you're having a physical experience. And anything that you bring to your community, to the greater community, is going to be appreciated, especially when it's done with kindness, love, compassion, understanding. Gosh, it kind of sounds like the eightfold path, or the eight path. Thank you. I was right. Eightfold path. Thank you, Sharon. The eightfold path.
Would you say what you just said, and I'm going to add one thing to it, and that will be all I need to say. You have on your thing, you just listen to me. You remember what you said?
No.
I don't either.
I believe what I was saying is that
all the good things.
Yeah, all of the good things, like everything that we bring, everything I bring, I do to the best of my ability to do with compassion, understanding, love, endless kindness. Even when I don't understand, and I can assure you, as an Aries male, when I don't understand, it's very obvious. If you doubt, just ask Lisa.
The only thing I would add to that from a Dharma point of view is and joy. Joy is an important component in times of stress and distress. That we have a firm foundation, and it's in there. You just haven't brought that one word out, and I wanted to add it. So all of that and more.
Yeah, I was attending a fire, and there were some very, very profound elders that were attending this ceremony, and as lead firekeeper, they were watching and not watching me. And at one point, as the sweat lodge opened, a big wave of fire came up, and it caught me off guard, and I had trouble breathing. I got smoke. I got a little bit singed, and I had to move away from the fire and regain myself. My eyes are watering, and there was laughter. The elders were laughing, and it was like, this isn't funny. I'm glad you find this funny. I'm not laughing until I realized, well, actually, it is pretty funny.
It is funny.
In fact, not only is it pretty funny, but if I had been more centered, probably that wouldn't have happened. I lost focus of what I was doing for a few moments. And they weren't laughing at me like, you idiot. They were like, stuff happens. Don't worry about it. Let it go. You're doing fine. Continue looking after the fire. And I did laugh. Coughed, but laughed. Laughing and coughing. So we have, we're just coming to the top of the hour, but we also started a little bit later too, about 15 minutes later. So we've got about 15 minutes to open the floor up for discussion. And it is my sincere hope that I have shared my experiences that honor the teachings that I've been fortunate enough to receive, to honor the elders that have sat with me quietly, to the ones that have whispered when I needed to hear something and they did not yell, to the ones that laughed when I got singed by a fire, that I've shared it in a way that honors them. And I encourage you that if you have any desire to understand the language of the land, go to these communities. There are 7, 8 indigenous tribes to Costa Rica in itself. The reason Costa Rica never really became fully taken over by the Spaniards is because they couldn't get the 8 groups to be on the same page. Because they all did their own different thing. It was hard to unite them.
I want. You ready for me to say something?
Yeah, please.
I always have something to say. I want to say thank you. That was a wonderful
Really
talk.
was. Yeah.
I don't know if you were aware of the atmosphere here while you were speaking. It was rapt attention. And I believe everyone here is going to go home, not so much with knowledge, but with affirmation of the spiritual path, and that we need to not be drawn away from it, but be drawn even deeper into it. The more it is attacked, the more deeply we practice. So thank you very, very much, and I'm sure everyone has. I did want to say you said one thing, and it made me think of the last of the Lojong teachings, which is don't expect applause.
Yes.
Yeah. Do what we have to do. And your dishwashing reference brings to mind Zen, that when you're washing dishes, you wash dishes. You give it your husband. But that
Exactly.
was
Yeah.
I think we'll all agree this was a very special program. We're all very fortunate to be here today. Thank you. So now you can.
No applause.
No problem.
I just 2 hands clapping. Yeah, what happens to the sound of 1 hand clapping? You want to get Zen? What's the sound of 1 hand clapping? There you go. Answer that one and you got it. But the similarities, I'm sure, are very apparent to everyone, and if they aren't, they can go home and chew on them and they will see them.
That's the beauty of these teachings, like the Dharma, is they are diamonds of truth that sit in our consciousness, indestructible, and the only way to really understand and appreciate these little nuggets of truth, these little diamonds, is to explore them through our own experiences. In so doing, we understand what it was. And so I'm not going to tell you what my experience was, because then you're only living my experience. But if there's a diamond of truth that you picked up or understood, and you embrace it within yourself, then you have a gift that you can also share. You can say, hey, I found this diamond, and you pass it to someone else, and they take it, and they put it into their consciousness, and they go, that makes sense to me too, as opposed to me being the one.
I believe that the elders of all spiritual traditions are really not passing along anything that their youngers don't already know, but they are bringing it to their attention and letting it filter down. There is nothing that can be told to you spiritually that you don't know either as truth or falsehood. You know it inside.
Agreed.
Whatever the tradition is, you know the truth from the non-truth. And it's just to remind people to pass along the traditions of that path, of what you already know. You're telling them something they already knew, but they just haven't thought of it.
Or been distracted.
Yeah. Or they just haven't really considered it yet. They're pretty busy.
Yeah. The medicine wheel that I showed in 1 second, the medicine wheel that I showed you, the oldest known version of it was found in Alberta, Canada, and it's dated back 5,000 years ago. So how many times has this story been told in 5,000 years? how many generations, especially through the residential school system and everything else, and still the teaching is here with us because it's an indestructible truth. It cannot be suppressed, compressed, or rejected. It will always come forward. Vern?
I thought I had is I can make an assumption that most everyone here worked in a non-indigenous job, culture, whatever. The challenge becomes taking these concepts and altering our systems as they exist in traditional America, Canada, wherever the case may be. I spent 20 years trying to alter the American justice system with these kinds of concepts, whereby someone is charged and convicted with a crime, a system punishes that person.
Yep.
The concept under which we operated on and did a great deal of work in the state of Colorado was to alter that belief system so you basically felt and looked at and examined the harm done to the community and how should this justice system restore the community and restore that person. The way that it was playing out oftentimes is something in this restorative justice concept was called conferencing. So you would bring everybody you thought would have been harmed by this person's act.
Yep.
Most of the time, and a judge would ultimately issue, and some of these were in indigenous community courts, the judge would ultimately take that consensus and apply it legally. But rarely did that group ever come up with a more punitive harm than a court would have done.
Sorry, then a what? I
A
didn't
more punitive sanction than what the court would have originally done.
Okay. Tempered by compassion.
Yeah, and it ended up, it just created a great deal of harmony. Where we live in Taos, New Mexico now, I know the Pueblo is beginning, they want to convert their court to a restorative model. And I may or may not get involved with that for reasons of being an Anglo going in. But that's the challenge, is taking these learnings, these teachings, and trying to change the systems on which we live in.
And so what, I don't know if everybody heard Vern, what he's talking about is he was involved in Colorado?
It was Colorado.
In Colorado, working with the judicial system to implement or bring about a justice that was in keeping with these communities and still meeting with the laws of Colorado and where that is. And he was saying that there was a difficulty between how do you change that world that he comes from to meet this other world. I heard that correctly? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so my answer to you would be, I know probably about 30 different women across Canada that have, because they're Native, First Nations, Indian, they get to go to school for free. And they have 3 degrees. They get a degree to go right back into school and get another degree. They've got 2 to go right back in and they get another degree. And what do they do with it? Do they move to the big cities? No. They move back to their communities and they sit with chief and council and they say, this is how we move forward. I've learned their language. I know what their expectations are. And this is how we can share our truth. And so for us, when we do this, and it sounds like this is what you were experiencing, what we do is we learn their language. We understand why it's important that they phrase things the way they do. And it's not so much just telling them what they need to do. You know, we've all lived in Costa Rica. We've met that person that has come to Costa Rica from somewhere else and said, what this country needs, I'll tell you what this country needs. And all of us look at that person and go, shh, stop, don't do it. But if we can sit and listen, and just listen to what they're actually asking us, listen to those nuggets of truth. And sometimes they're shrouded in wound and pain. Okay, that's understandable, but at least listen. They will teach us what we need to know. Sorry for this example, but Heineken is a beer. No 2 bottles of Heineken are the same in the world because they alter the taste of the Heineken to meet every particular location that it's in. The one that you get in Thailand tastes different than the one that is in the Bahamas, which is different than the one in the United States.
Okay.
Very close, but different. And so if we can do something that with beer, then how is it that our rules and regulations need to be for everybody? It has to be morphed and shift and changed. And that's what it sounds like Vern was doing, yes? Okay.
So how can we apply that to what's happening right now in Canada with the truckers? And I think Sharon and we've had this talk before about we're somehow trying to get to the truth. Well, I feel the same way as you. I don't like what's going on with the truckers. So we're to go into their world and understand where they're coming from. How does one go about and do that?
Well, they told you where they're coming from.
Many times.
I mean, if you listen,
Yeah, I know.
all you have to do is listen. And
I
they're
know.
telling you where they're coming from. You have to decide, can you do with that truth? Can you do reconciliation, either with law or with religion or whatever? But they've already told you, as somebody once said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them.
Yeah. My concern with what you've been asking is I actually don't have a problem with the truckers.
You have to have
I don't have a
reconciliation.
problem.
No, well, with the divisiveness
The
of
divisiveness and how it's spun out of
exactly.
control,
That's what I'm talking about.
that is now an unresolvable situation
Yeah.
because it's not one voice, it's 15, 20, 40 different views all piling on to try and resolve something. And from my perspective, if we were to follow that First Nation teaching, they show up passively and sit quietly.
The truckers.
No, the nation, First
Oh,
Nation.
the First Nations. Okay.
Everywhere they do, they sit quietly. They don't have things written, the FUCK,
Yeah.
the Prime Minister written
Yeah.
on the side of their truck.
Right.
There's no against energy. This is a truth. And if those initial
That's
truckers,
that's the definition of reconciliation.
if those initial truckers had come to Parliament Hill and said, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
But they have an agenda. They're being directed.
Well, there's other people that have now gotten involved, and you said there's not just
Yeah,
one
they
voice,
started
many
it.
voices.
Which includes the realization that these people wouldn't have had a voice if the government hadn't been out of alignment.
Yeah.
And in fairness to all of the governments in the world, who could have predicted a pandemic would have this kind of effect? Who has the right? Nobody has the right answer. We're all doing the best that they can. And so what I'm hoping to suggest in this is that we come bearing gifts. We come with tobacco and we say, I need to talk. I just need to talk. And that person says, I'm ready to receive your tobacco and I'm ready to listen. And we can work this out.
Can I ask a question?
I think you
Just
did.
out of curiosity.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, why did the truckers do what they did?
I don't think we should try and resolve that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
really
was
don't.
just curious because I don't know why they're
Well,
doing
we
what
can
they're
have
doing.
that
I-
conversation.
In
but
short,
this isn't
Jordan,
one.
in very short, they feel like that they were being singled out and that they couldn't perform their job to the best of their ability because of the restrictions.
I don't know, but I do want to add to this that truth and reconciliation are extremely powerful words, and Desmond Tutu is the one who really brought them to life in the Christian tradition. We have the Dharma, which is Easter. Desmond Tutu is the main voice for truth and reconciliation, and he brought a highly divided nation, South Africa. He brought about genuine peace. It's beginning to erode now, and you know something never stops. And we're going through another cycle of, as someone said the other day, we're on a rocket ride back to the 1930s. It's when I was born. I feel it very acutely. But anyway, so it never goes away, but you can deal with it from a spiritual point of view. And you can study what Desmond Tutu did in South Africa for truth and reconciliation, and what this group is doing, what the Dalai Lama, who has become actually almost the poster child of interfaith truth and reconciliation. Set your mind to studying them instead of lamenting the people that are tearing things apart.
And that loop, because we're coming up on meta, that loops us right back into the very beginning, that there is suffering in the world, and then often we are the cause of that suffering, but we are also the sensation or the completion or the ending of the suffering. And once I realized that I am the completion point, then if I live my life consciously, divine livelihood, with attention, with in all of these, the speech, action, livelihood. If I live those things to the best of my ability, then my truth is going to be spoken. And it doesn't matter where I go to speak it, whether I'm sitting in a native community at the Arctic Circle, whether I'm sitting in a lawyer's office in Bay Street. I just to show you how powerful this and into what Vern was saying, I walked into a lawyer's office in Toronto, 10 years ago. And as I did, I noticed that he was Jewish because he had the
Mezuzah?
mezuzah. Thank you.
Mezuzah.
I want to say the anyway, the mezuzah on the door. And as I walked by, I kissed and I put my hand and I walked in. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're Jewish?" And I said, "No." And he went, "How did you know to do that?" And I said, "I grew up in Toronto. There's a lot of Jews, a lot of Jews in Toronto." And he said, "Wow, who are you?" And so we had a conversation for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes before doing something. And then we had this document filled out. I read it. I signed the document, put it in an envelope, handed it to me. And he said, "Really nice chatting with you." And I said, "Thank you." I handed it to my ex-wife. It was a document for her. She took the document, went to somewhere. They came back and said, "The document's wrong. The dates are wrong." And I was living in Ottawa. She lives in Toronto. The lawyer was in Toronto. And I looked and I went, "Well, would you look at that? I guess I'm doing this again." I phoned him back up and I said, "Made a mistake." And he said, "Oh, well, I'm so sorry." And I said, "I'm the one who signed it." He said, "But as your lawyer, I should have done it." And I said, "Well, fair enough." He said, "When are you in town?" I said, "I'm coming in 2 days." And when I walked into the office, kissed, walked through, he didn't acknowledge me. We just walked in. He had everything. He went through it line by line to make sure that everything was accurate. He watched me sign, he signed, and then he took a box and he moved it over from his desk to in front of me. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "You strike me as the person who would like vegan cupcakes." So I went and I found a bakery that made vegan cupcakes and I bought them for you because I want to say sorry for the mistake that I made.
How nice.
And I was like, and I looked at him and I said, "I've never had a lawyer do anything like that before." And he said, "It changes things, doesn't it?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, it does." And they were awesome. They were amazing. But these are the things that we're talking about. These are the things that we're talking about when we talk about the Dharma, when we talk about the teachings, when we talk about Siddhartha, when we talk about the 4 people that we spoke about 2 weeks ago. When we bring all of these teachings as our community and we bring them all together, it's so that we all can walk away and go, there's hope, there's possibility, and I know that this will sort itself out. I'm going to be okay and my community is going to be okay. And so now I pass over to Ruthie, when we do our metta and our loving kindness, I hope we hear something deeper, richer, further, something more profound as we step into what is actually possible for ourselves. Just by saying, "May you know peace. May no harm come to you."
Mm-hmm.
And really mean it in every cell, every atom of our body.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you again. Thank all of you for everything. The one thing, and Jordan, my apologies to you for stopping me, but we don't need to get drawn into that discussion at this point, except perhaps everybody to share their wisdom. And one of them is that a big red flag should go up if you have the temptation to meet hostility with hostility. If we're going to do any of the truth and reconciliation, any of the spiritual practices, before you find yourself becoming hostile, back away and do your loving kindness. Don't meet violence with violence. Don't meet hostility with hostility. And so you have to protect yourself. Actually, if you find that hostile aggression or whatever is beginning to corrode you inside, you know, where you're beginning to want to strike back or whatever, just stay with it. Uh, Truth is known. We'll go ahead and do metta. I think everyone here knows how to do it. Let's put some basic attention today on those with whom we are in conflict. And also let's place a few minutes of silence for the people uh, who are suffering today from being invaded. And the people who are the invaders who don't want to be invaders. There's a lot of suffering going on there. And so there we go. So take a deep breath. Everything begins with relaxing, delving into your own silence, your own stillness, and with meaning to yourself first. May I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. And now to someone close to us that we love intimately and personally. Bring their face to mind, smile at them, say their name and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now to the neutral person, the person whose name you may not know, in which case you simply call him friend. What is someone that you are familiar with without any real closeness? Look at them and say, dear friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, take a deep breath again and bring to mind someone with whom you are in conflict. Doesn't matter who it is, but they don't like you or you don't like them, or some of you's got grudges and you don't even remember why sometimes. It's just someone with whom you feel a sense of conflict, of division. And with all the sincerity you can muster and without any malice whatsoever, say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm, and peaceful. May you be happy. And now we take in the entire universe of sentient beings. All sentient beings, human and animal. Everything in the universe. That's a lot. And we put our hands over our hearts because that's the only place symbolically that has enough space in it to hold all space and all people and all animals and even all non-sentient beings like trees and rocks and what have And so as you bring this huge phantasmagoria of all of this life, this energy, it's really overwhelming. So you have to be really open. And you say, may all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. Now, this loving kindness meditation is just one expression of any number of metta meditations that you can bring for yourself. It can be devoted to one person or to a whole group or just the people in the hospital. You work on it yourself. But this one meditation, the Buddha said, was the sublime meditation. And I believe the elders would agree with that all the way through for everyone. This is the sublime meditation. And it will directly affect the actions, what you think and say and do, your karma. So during difficult times, it's a very good meditation to spend a little time every day just wishing everyone on all sides that they be well and free from harm and calm and peaceful and practicing equanimity and being happy. So now drop your hands, open your eyes, smile at your neighbors. Hello. It's important. In the old days, we would turn around and touch, but now we're a little more restrained, aren't we? But the feeling is the same. And so you say after me out loud this time. Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
Living gently.
Living gently.
Loving mightily.
Loving mightily.
And bowing to the mysteries.
Bowing to the mysteries.
Okay, guys, we'll see you next week.
Thank you. That was wonderful, Mark. Thank you so much.
Wasn't that a great talk?
Really,
That
just,
was a great talk.
yeah.
You did 5 gold stars.
I never got